Last May, the Sierra Nevada snow gauge was buried under 4 feet of snow. This May, you can read the numbers on it from 30 feet away. The snow was supposed to last until summer. Instead, California's mountains started melting apart. In less than 30 days, the state lost more than half its snowpack, not over an entire season or over a year, but in a single month. And now, scientists are warning that what disappeared in the mountains this spring could fundamentally break California's entire summer. Because the snow didn't just melt early, it collapsed. On May the 4th, the Sierra Nevada snowpack measured between 75 and 80% of the historical average, below normal, but manageable. By May 28, that same snowpack had dropped to between 20 and 30%. In under 4 weeks, 50 percentage points. Gone. And what makes this terrifying is not just how much snow disappeared, it's how fast the entire system stopped working. Because California doesn't really store its water in reservoirs, it stores it in the mountains. Every winter, snow piles across the Sierra Nevada like a giant frozen savings account. Then through spring and summer, that snow slowly melts, feeding rivers, reservoirs, farms, and cities for months. That slow melt is what makes modern California possible, and this year it arrived all at once. Federal climate scientists say snow melt across parts of the Sierra ran more than 40 days ahead of schedule. 40 days. That's not a small timing problem. That's the entire state's natural water battery discharging 6 weeks early. And the consequences are already starting. In late April, forecasts showed runoff into major western reservoirs collapsing far below normal. Some projections for Lake Powell fell to just 22% of average inflow. 22%. And the reason wasn't mysterious. California and Nevada just recorded their warmest October through April period ever observed. Not warmest in years. On record. For weeks, heat sat over the west with almost no meaningful rain arriving behind it. The warmth simply kept pulling water out of the mountains faster and faster, and by May, the damage was already visible. But here's the dangerous part. If you drive past California's major reservoirs right now, many of them still look fine. Lake Shasta still has water. Oroville still has water. The system does not look like it's collapsing. And that illusion is exactly what makes flash drought so dangerous. Because looking at the reservoirs today is like checking your bank account the day after losing your job. The balance still looks normal. The problem is what happens next. Because the Sierra snowpack acts like California's paycheck. And this year, the paycheck stopped arriving almost 6 weeks early. The water that was supposed to slowly trickle into reservoirs through June and July already rushed through the system in April, before farms even needed it. Which means California is entering the hottest part of the year with the charger already unplugged. And this is where the story stops being about mountains and starts becoming about people. In California's Central Valley, farmers don't experience snowpack collapse. They experience water notices, canal levels, and allocation cuts. California water law operates on a century-old hierarchy of senior and junior water rights. And when supplies shrink, junior rights holders are often the first to lose access entirely. During the last mega drought, some farmers received 0 water allocations. 0. If you grow tomatoes, maybe you survive by leaving fields empty for a season. But if you grow almonds, pistachios, or grapes, you can't pause a tree. So farmers brought in bulldozers. Entire orchards, decades old, were ripped from the ground because there wasn't enough water left to keep them alive. Thousands of acres destroyed. Not because the trees were diseased, because the water vanished. And California has seen this pattern before. The 2012 through 2017 mega drought didn't begin with empty reservoirs or statewide panic. It began with one bad year, then another. Then a summer where the snow melted too fast. Then a winter that failed to fully recover the loss. And by the time scientists confirmed California was entering one of the worst droughts in more than 1,000 years, the deficit was already deeply embedded into the system. In 2015, Governor Jerry Brown stood in a Sierra meadow where 5 feet of snow should have existed. Instead, the ground was bare. That year, California's April snowpack measured just 5% of average. The 2026 snowpack is not there yet. But the trajectory is what matters, because this is how megadroughts begin, quietly. At first, everything still looks survivable. Then the deficits start stacking, and eventually the entire system begins running behind faster than winter can refill it. Scientists have a term for what may already be happening across the Sierra Nevada: flash drought. A flash drought is different from a normal drought because it develops incredibly fast, sometimes in just weeks. And the main driver isn't always missing rainfall, it's heat. Extreme heat pulls moisture from soil, vegetation, and snowpack so aggressively that landscapes dry out before monitoring systems fully react. Which means by the time the data confirms the drought, much of the damage is already done. And there's another reason this year became so dangerous. Imagine pouring water onto scorching pavement in the middle of July. Before the water can even flow anywhere, it disappears. That's essentially what parts of the Sierra Nevada experienced this spring. The atmosphere became so warm and dry that it started stealing moisture directly from the snowpack itself, not slowly melting it into rivers, pulling some of it straight into the air. Scientists call this vapor pressure deficit. But the important part isn't the term, it's what it does. Because some of California's water supply never even reached the reservoirs, it vanished into the atmosphere first. And that missing water creates another problem: fire. The water story and the fire story are not two separate disasters. One is just the ghost of the other. Snow sitting on California's mountains normally acts like a natural fire suppressant. It keeps vegetation wet deep into summer. But when the snow disappears more than a month early, the landscape begins drying more than a month early too. Grass cures faster, brush dries faster, forests spend longer baking in the heat. A Southern California fire captain doesn't experience hydrological deficit. He experiences flames moving through dry hillsides in May instead of July. And what makes this even more dangerous is that California is still carrying the scars of the last megadrought. Millions of trees killed during the drought years are still standing across parts of the state as dead, dry fuel. The landscape is now layering drought on top of drought, heat on top of heat, fuel on top of fuel, and all of this is happening before the most intense part of summer has even begun. Which brings us back to the reservoirs. Because the real test is not what they look like today. The real test is what happens by August. California's major reservoirs entered 2026 near healthy levels, which gives the system a temporary buffer. But buffers only work if recovery arrives behind them. And right now, there is no recovery signal. Long-range outlooks continue favoring hotter-than-normal conditions across California through the core summer months. No major cooling pattern. No meaningful late-season snow recharge. Just rising demand, hitting a system whose backup supply already disappeared. If reservoir levels begin dropping aggressively through July and August, California enters dangerous territory. Because once storage falls low enough, the conversation changes. It stops being about temporary restrictions and starts becoming about structural shortage. That is the threshold California crossed during the last megadrought. And the terrifying reality is that by the time the public fully recognizes a flash drought, the system may already be locked into it. The dashboards still look manageable, the reservoirs still appear high, the creek is still running. For now. But the snow that was supposed to carry California through late summer is already gone. The inflow has already collapsed. The mountains already spent their water, and the hottest months of the year haven't even arrived yet.